kabisa. Zinakatika dakika 12 asubuhi baada ya saa 2 masaa na majira ya Afrika Mashariki. Ladies and gentlemen of East Africa, West Africa, all of Africa, welcome. Now we are going to have a conversation that we had promised you that we are going to have. It's a set on Africa, youth leadership and unemployment. The people we are going to talk about are still the organizers of Africa Youth Empowerment Summit. I'm joined all the way from Ghana by Alfred Eli Kwasi Dei, or K, whatever you want to call him. This guy is a peacemaker. He's a diplomat. He has a lot of awards. Let me go through about his profile. Then I will introduce him to you and give him a chance to tell us what he has been doing in Africa. Huyu amezurura. He has gone far and wide. Listen to this. Alfred Eli Kwasi Dei is a global and award-winning human rights advocate. He is an honoree for the most influential people of African descent. He is a co-founder of AYLF, Africa Youth Leadership Forum, second international president, Federation of African Law Students, public speaker, AFC. I told you guys. And he is coming live from all the way in Ghana. Good morning, Alfred. How are you doing?
Hey, good morning. I'm doing awesome.
We are now live. We had promised that we are going to talk about Africa and our people, because I always believe that world is a global village. It doesn't really matter where you are. What matters is, are we connecting, and when we connect, what impact are we giving to our community? First of all, I've gone through your profile, but I would like my audience, because your audience know you, my audience to understand who Alfred K is, who Eli is, who Kwasi is, who Dei is, and what he does.
Right, sure. Once again, thank you very much for such a warm reception. Alfred Eli Kwasi Dei, a legal professional and one that believes in the power of the youth to transform the continent, one that believes in leadership development, and one that believes that when the African youth is given the opportunity, they'll be able to thrive and create a better and sustainable environment for the people of Africa to live in. One that also, like you said, I'm an honoree of the most influential people of African descent. And what that basically is because of how I've been able to galvanize support systems and human resource systems to be able to mentor young people and even to connect the people of African descent to those here in Africa to be able to drive the change that we want to see in our community. And we have done that through several means. I've been doing this for over 10 years, and I believe that the little change that has seen us come this far is still that change that is going to create that better future for all of Africa to see. So I'm just a young man, a spoken word that is still existing. That's a son of Africa who sees Africa to be where it is, the action point of the global force. And I know that we are going to make it happen. And so this is basically who I am. In terms of the portfolios and the places that I occupy, there are so many of them. But I believe that during the conversation, we are also going to throw more light on more of the work that we do so that our audience can also better appreciate. Thank you.
Exactly. I love it. We are broadcasting live from university. This is Kenyatta University, meaning most of our audience are people who are aged between 18 and 28. Because after 28, these people transition to do things that they learned in Kenyatta University in their community. We are the best university in Kenya. We identified a need, and it is in our community, and this need is our youth are lacking empowerment, our youth are lacking access to education, unemployment is an issue, human rights being violated. And today, because I am with you, someone who is a award-winning humanitarian, award-winning diplomat. Tell us the process that led to you being the most influential people of African descent, still from Africa. Because in our side of town, Kenya, it's so hard for you to be even a school prefect or class prefect. So to rise above ladders to being the most influential person of African descent is something that has a process. Let's give this process in a minute in a way that someone at the grassroots level can understand your journey.
Sure, thank you very much. So this journey just began with I would say a prayer. So my name is Alfred Eli Kwasi Dei, but I started this journey as well through a gift that God gave me, and it was a gift of spoken word. And so out of that, I got the name Derema. So Eli Derema. So through prayer, through communication with God, I found my purpose. And when I found my purpose, I would say that that was a turning point of everything. The moment I was able to understand the purpose for which I was living, and I also interrogated this through several books, like one from Rick Warren, Purpose Driven Life, a few other books that I had read by Ben Carson, The Gifted Hands, and Think Big. These books changed my mindset about how I viewed life and how I viewed everything. And so it also made me connect to my innate abilities and potentials. And then I started looking at things beyond just the physical or beyond my sphere of contact. So I would then think deeper and even higher than I would project. So I don't see it just as a Ghanaian thing. I didn't see my context as a Ghanaian thing. I began to see my context and the purpose that God has given me in a global sense. And I also understood the contemporary times in which we find ourselves, which is not just an issue of you just being in your confines, but rather a global context. So I understood that I had to be an active player in this global and evolving world. And so that is what changed the direction and the dynamics. So once I was able to now identify that, it became easier for me to even effect the changes that I had to. And so it was just that change of mindset, which now propelled me to the next level of growth, of engagement with persons, and started being where important people are. I started also building strategic alliances. I understood that where I had to go wasn't just confined to one industry. So I had to now start engaging people from different industries, different walks of life. And it's widening the scope of my influence and the impact that I had to make. And then I also focus much more on where I can impact, which is the young people. And so when I was able to find the industry that was relevant to my potentials, relevant to my calling, it was easier for me to make the impact that I had to make. And so it was a call for me to live a purposeful life that drove me to all the things that are here today and the global influence that I was able to get, including the most influential people of African descent. I started in 2021, I was elected as president of the Federation of African Law Students, which is the unifying body for young lawyers and law students across the continent. And through that, I was able to bring other continental associations together, which also fostered same result. And so several international law associations, we try to bring them all on board. And today we have seen our influence in over 40 5 African countries. And so that is how it all started. And this is how far we have come. And there is still more to come. And I know that this is just the beginning of a very long journey.
Thank you so much. For the people who are from East Africa and how are not well traveled, how is Ghana like? How is, what is a youth of Ghana going through in a daily basis?
Yeah, so Ghana is amazing. I mean, even though we are not the first, I would say that we are the first born of Africa in the sense of the fact that we were the first to gain our independence. Aside that, the Ghanaian youth is very ambitious, very, very ambitious and very confident. And Ghana is more like a pulse of West Africa. I know that my Nigerian friends would not agree with me on this, but it's more like the pulse of West Africa. It is where West Africa finds most of its life. Majority of the global forces, and I'm talking about the heavyweights in West Africa, are from Ghana. You know, the likes of Kofi Annan and co are all West Africans. And we know we have the father of Pan-Africanism, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah as well, as a Ghanaian. And so these personalities have actually helped drive some sort of important stakeholder engagement here in the youth here. And the youth are, through this, also getting some sort of inspiration to do even better. So today, if you come to Ghana, you'd realize that the youth are really inspired and motivated to do very greater works. And it's really inspiring to see my colleagues and the great things they are doing. And we learn from each other. And that is how we've been able to build ourselves and grow even better.
Thank you so much. That is so inspiring and so motivational. I was waiting eagerly for the 21st and 23rd May, whereby we are going to have Africa Youth Summit that I understand has been postponed. I would love us to unpack this Africa Youth Empowerment Summit and get to analyze its importance to the African people. Why is it right? Why is it important? Why should we have it as people of African descent?
Yeah, thank you very much. And so just to confirm, we haven't postponed. Am I audible?
You're just hanging, but you're audible.
Am I audible? Can you confirm whether I'm audible?
You're audible now.
Okay, good. Yes, awesome.
I'm
Yes.
requesting
so
if you
I was
could,
saying that.
sorry, I am requesting
Yes,
if you could pull up and start again.
All right, sure. All right, thank you very
You
much.
are an artist, right?
Yeah,
so you understand pull up. DJ, pull up.
Yes.
Started from the top. Let's go.
Right, sure. Thank you very much. Yeah, so like I was saying, we haven't necessarily postponed this. We didn't anticipate the number of registrations that were coming, and so logistics were not prepared for the overwhelming number of persons who were now interested in being a part of it, and even partnerships that were coming in at the latter stage. We realized that continuing would just be us not giving them that sort of huge, impactful summits that they were expecting, because the number was huge, and wanted to see how we would be able to accommodate that number. We didn't want to exempt anyone as well from being a part of it. Now, what we are doing is that we are going to rather, during this period, 21st to 23rd, accommodate them virtually, while we make that in-person, what's it called? Make that in-person provision for them to be a part of the conversation while we have anticipated the huge number of registrations that are coming. So it's still going to be happening, but virtually to accommodate the number that we didn't expect. Again, it's to tell you how much the African youth is hungry for such initiatives and such empowerment programs. I was astounded to see the overwhelming number of persons that wanted to be a part of this conversation. And so I'm looking at this from that perspective, and I know that once we still give them the best through this virtual engagement, the in-person one is going to be massive, trust me, and you should be there. You and your team will be there to cover that great historic engagement in Kenya. It's still going to be in Kenya, and we cannot wait to see you.
It's a privilege, it's a blessing for Kenya to be the country chosen to host the Africa Youth Empowerment Summit 2025. And we are honored to do this. We will be there. Personally, I've been following up, I've been following you with the name of learning. I want to do more impact for my community, and I feel whatever I've been doing is not enough. So I have to learn from people from other countries. What are they doing from their countries? What are they doing from their environment and spaces, so that I can try and reach people like Baden Powell's dream of, if you sweep your place, I sweep mine, the whole world will be clean. Now, the Africa Youth Summit has some themes that highlights governance, they highlight human rights, they highlight tech transformation, all this geared towards investing in youth. In all these themes, which do you think is the one important that youth should pay all their attention to?
Trust me, it would be very, very difficult to choose one particular thing. And the reason is because I always talk about the youth economy and as the driving force of the African population, as the ones that are most populated on the continent. It's always important to see the need for that ecosystem. So you realize that all these industries you're mentioning, and the organizers of the summit were very particular in choosing the various thematic areas that would constitute the conference, like the continental integration and regional collaboration. You cannot do away with it, especially in the time in which we find ourselves with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, where trade must be around ourselves. We have seen that when ties are severed between countries in regions, we can see some of the volatility of security issues that happens, which also means that regional collaboration is very important. We've seen the unity in East Africa and how even it has helped in the language speaking, the Kiswahili that has been spoken in East Africa. When you go to Rwanda, Tanzania, Kenya, and all of these countries speaking one language through the regional collaboration, we've seen SADC and the influence it's had. We've seen ECOWAS and the influence it's had. I don't have to get a visa to travel to Nigeria, the Gambia, Liberia, and all of that. So these are also very important conversations, especially because of the times in which we find ourselves, where we believe that there shouldn't be restriction in terms of travel among ourselves as a people, as the African community. So that is also very important. And then we have the evolving world, which has brought about technology and AI, which is a very, very important conversation that we need to have. One that is actually laying people off jobs, one that is creating unemployment. And I say this because today, some of the youth that are not well versed in technology and um, um, all of these basic skills are not able to get along with the times in which we find ourselves, which require these digital skills. So this is also very important, not just for you to be in the working space, but even for you as an entrepreneur to be able to also meet the demands of the growing global community. And then we have the issue of women's rights and children's rights. Very important conversation. Gender-based violence hasn't ended. And it is now the need for all of us to join forces together to be able to mitigate the losses and the implications that these vices have had also on our society. Governance structures. You would agree with me that today there are some of the youth, and I saw the resilience of the Kenyan youth, um, asking for accountability, asking that the governance structures in the countries should be properly set in place for the Kenyan youth to have a thriving and an enabling environment to thrive. And so these are also very important conversations that we should be having. So coming together, you'd realize that what is the most important thing to us um, organizers of this summit was to talk about the ecosystem, where all these actors will be able to come together and be one economy and drive one economy, an economy that will have the governance structures, people in diplomacy engaging, and an economy that will have the tech people also relying on each other. So if someone has a business and they need a tech facilitator or a tech-driven solution, how do they rely on that? And how does this rely on that? So the ecosystem now becomes the most important conversation, not a particular industry, but how all these industries will come together to create a community where the youth will not just be would not just be spectators, but participants of a great economy that Mother Africa has left us.
That is so powerful, that is so impactful, that is so helpful to the Kenyan youth. I feel like the call is one. The clarion call is to bring all these youths together so that they can now form ways and measures to ensure that they are revolutionizing economy from whatever world they are coming from. If you are coming from tech world, we meet here. If you are coming from artists world, we meet here. If you are coming from advocacy world, you advocate for GBV, you advocate for SRH, we meet here. If you come from the world of diplomacy, law, like yourself, we meet here and reason together. We ask ourselves then, how are we making this economy better in places where we are? You are an artist yourself, you said so. How was your life then? And how has it helped you now? And what are you doing about your artistic life?
Sure, thank you very much. That is an area of myself that I didn't actually see coming. I always knew that I was a creative person. I would actually, my mother is a fashion designer. So growing up, I didn't know I had that sort of creative, like too much of a creative, arts something. So I would usually recreate my bow tie. So the bow tie that I would buy, I'll just recreate it and then find a different way of letting it align. Something that hasn't been seen, and I'll take a thread, my mother's thread, and then I'll re-sew it into a different piece. So it wouldn't just be the bow tie that I bought, it's just something different. So I'll do that at my young stage. And then I also knew how to write poems. So I started writing poems. So there was this time when we had to do a program, and then those who knew that I was a good poet told me that they think that I should recite one of my poems. And I said, okay, why not? I mean, that's a good idea. This is years ago. And so I put together a piece, very wonderful piece, and then I recited. And I recited with so much passion. And so when I finished, someone came to me and said that what you did is called spoken word. In fact, I didn't know what spoken word was. I was just an innocent, talented young man and just did my thing. And then I started looking out for it and I said, oh, so this is what spoken word was about. Now, that was a game changer for me because it began my public speaking career. Through that, I was able to speak to thousands of people. I remember there was a conference for youth, which had over thousands of people and people from the diaspora and all of that. And I gave my spoken word piece from 5 to 10 minutes. And when I finished and I got a standing ovation, I was like, ooh, I never saw this coming. I never thought I would be a public speaker, but the gateway to my public speaking was my talent, my spoken word talent, my poetry talent, which opened a platform for me to start speaking to people, start having audiences. I've had heads of state as my audiences. I've had chief justices and people from all walks of life. And it's been a great privilege, and I'm very grateful that God was able to give me that talent because it opened me up a lot. It helped me in my confidence and all of that. So that is how my art, my artistic self broke me out into the limelight of public speaking.
You know, I am so glad because when we were preparing this interview or launch with you, I had hoped that you were here. So one thing that I asked God is, let me feel the same way as if you are here, since the world is a global village. And I'm telling you, I'm learning bit by bit, I'm enjoying bit by bit, and I am hoping my audience too are grabbing something here, there, and time is not on our side. So I want to ask a question, and this question, in 2 minutes, you give me everything about the summit. First of all, we've all agreed that Africa Youth Empowerment Summit is a tick. That's why we are calling it IS 2025. The real problem that we have identified and we are talking about today is African youth leadership and unemployment. So how does Africa Youth Empowerment Summit address this? Keep aside or keep away all the motivation, practical ways that will help African youth in this summit to evade unemployment or to do better. So,
for sure.
Also tell me how you've packaged it in the 3 days. On first day, you'll do this, second, third, until they get and the registration and how they can register.
For sure. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this. And yes, I love your energy as well. I think that it is the energy that is making the room very lively. And it's almost appearing as if we are in the same room. And I cannot wait to meet you in person when we are having our in-person summit so that we can have more fruitful interaction. Yeah, so the issue with so the question you asked, which is the summit itself and what it consummates now. So, and how it solves youth leadership crisis and also unemployment issues. This is what I was saying earlier about the ecosystem we are trying to build. Now, one of the problems with Africa is partnership. Now, the issue is we are unable to go as far as we can because of individualistic or individualism. People want to go alone. We don't want to come together. You'd realize that the that has been the sole reason why Africa hasn't really been where it has to be, because we are not together, because we are not united. So in the higher scale of thing, even at the national level, you'd realize that that is the problem that they created for us through the Berlin Conference, that we would be apart. Now, that is the same thing with technology, and that is the same thing with ecosystems, and that is the same thing with the economy. You cannot set industries apart. Industries must be unified. And so when you see the European system, you realize that they have a system where all of them use the same currency, all of them are quite connected, and you can actually, from this place, work on another jurisdiction, and it happens. That is the effect. Now, what we are seeking to do with the African Youth Empowerment is to create that sort of youth economy and conversation where we'll be able to now create a solid system where we'll be able to break that barrier. Now, it is all about systems. And when you are able to decode the system and you have active participants in the system, things begin to change. Now, you think about it this way, we always thought that there was going to always be the financial systems where this way, who determines how much Kenya is worth, who determines how much Ghana is worth. And then there is a young man who decided that I am going to do a digital currency. And that digital currency, even though it wasn't embraced by people, with time, people started using that digital currency. People started paying for commodities with that digital currency. And today, that digital currency has been legalized in several countries. And that digital currency is being used by several countries. And that digital currency has now become of value. So it means that once you're able to find loopholes in systems and come together and you're illuminated as a group, we'll be able to change the system. We have identified that the world is changing. People need digital skills. If we are unable to give them this digital skills, they will not be able to also find themselves fit in that system, which is why we are bringing all these digital literacy materials to the people so that they will be able to, while running their business, incorporate this digital literacy, because it's not enough to just have a business, but you have to incorporate human rights principles. You have to also incorporate these digital principles to be able to compete with the growing world. Now, what we sought to do was create that ecosystem, all of us relying on each other, creating this system so that we'll be able to have that conversation over and over. So day one, we're focusing on law, governance, and diplomacy to have conversations around these areas to see how we can change it, how peace and security will not be an issue, how we as a youth can also play a part in this structure. You don't necessarily have to be in government to be able to drive policies or to effect policies. So we want the people to understand that. You understand? And then also day two, we are driving conversations around innovation, technology, climate action. You don't have to be a climate activist to be able to keep your environment clean. So these are just the basic things. So when we are able to, we don't have to leave these conversations to the people in these areas alone. When we bring that ecosystem and we bring the technology people to also let people understand in their fields what this is all about, and these people also understand what this is all about, the African youth becomes more illuminated and understand that these systems can work in our favor if we all put our hands on the wheel. The day 3 will then be touching more on social justice, human rights, and then also community development, which is what we wanted to now end the summit with, and then go to Kibera to do the Kibera Transformation Project, which is a huge project, impactful project to change Kibera as the youth in the next few years. We know that that's the largest slum in Africa. We know that that place is a place, it's like the entire conversation we want to have now is in Kibera, because there is waste management issue, there is digital literacy issue, there is government issue, there's human rights issue, medical issue, food insecurity issue. While we have had this conversation at the summit, we go to Kibera to actualize the conversation in Kibera, for the people of Kibera to understand that this is why we are here, for us to understand that it's not just about talks, it's not just about coming to have tea, coffee at a summit, but then to actualize the conversations that we have in our communities, so that people in the community will understand that we are here for them, we are all together, and we are building their communities together. And so that is what the IS Summit sought to do, to actualize conversations that we are having in at the summit in Kibera, so that after we have had this, we'll have a sustainable project where we'll come back to Kibera every 6 months, every year, to find out how we are working towards creating a sustainable community for all of us. Mind you, the problem in Kibera is not a Kenyan problem, it's an African problem, because we don't have Kenyans living in Africa and Nigerians living in Africa. We have Africans living in Nigeria, Africans living in Kenya, Africans living in Ghana. It's just an issue of geography. So it's a collective problem we all face as Africans, except it's not perhaps geographically where I find myself. And so this is why we are having this conversation, to see how we'll be able to change the situations that we find in our communities. And trust me, it's going to happen. Dreams delay is not dream denied. We are going to meet again very, very soon in Kenya. I cannot wait to meet the resilient Kenyans, the Kenyans who stood their grounds to ask for accountability, the young people that I met last year in October were that driving force that Africa is waiting for. And we cannot wait to meet again very, very soon. I cannot wait to see you in the studio, but I cannot wait to see you on panels as well, and even in our community drive.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Eli K. Now I consider you a friend, so allow me to address you as Eli K. Ladies and gentlemen, mmesikia vile hii conversation ni important for us. Hii conversation ama hii summit ni important kwa kila youth, na itakuwa inahakikisha ya kwamba we change these things in our society. We are done with the African youth leadership and empowerment conversation. Tumeaddress unemployment na watu waendelee kuregister. Itakuwa hapa Kenya, Kenya School of Government. Hapo ndo itafanyikia kwa mpigo tena zaidi. I will be there. Saizi nataka tutoke hapa hivi. We go for a very short break. Lakini tukirejea, we still now have to talk about art and mental health. And we also make sure we are discussing everything that is happening in our country through these newspapers. These papers are meant for us, so we'll be making sure that we get deep down into them with another inspirational leader who is doing now so much in his community Fortunately, he's from Kenya. Hapa tu Kariobangi North. Someone you can just knock at the door na umfiki. I will be joining Youth Green Society CEO Dennis Kimani. We talk about now the youth, the leadership, the mental health, everything that is reflected on this newspaper review. Nikienda hapo hivyo kwa hiyo short break, jiulize mbona advertisement yako haiko katikati ya show, inaenda kwa promo. Kompigo tena zaidi. Art and culture inarejea.